Tonight, we are hearing directly from the state comptroller, who was out with an audit tonight, very critical of previous management at Western Regional Off-Track Betting, which also runs Batavia Downs. We've reported on scandals at OTB for years. Tom DiNapoli's report says that the board provided almost no oversight of management, which failed to rein in costs, even as revenue was declining. Former Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown took over in late 2024 at the end of this audit period, and DiNapoli told me today that Brown has agreed to address many of the issues and institute 16 recommendations from auditors.
We found a very lax control environment, really, from the perspective of the board, really complete delegation to management as far as basic operations of the OTB, really resulting in revenues going down. At the same time, expenses were going up significantly.
I think it's caused some people to wonder, is it worth it having this anymore? How do you respond to that?
Well, yeah, we've done audits of OTBs across the state over the years, and we have raised the question of just the whole model of OTBs. Does it make sense anymore? And very much to your point, Michael, what we've seen is that the revenues going to localities has been going down. And that is a combination of factors. There are changes in certainly in terms of horse racing and wagering in general. There have been some other gaming revenues that have gone up. But when you look at Western Regional OTB, the fact that the expenses keep going up and outpacing the revenue growth, that really is a key part of the equation as to why there's less money going to municipalities. The fact that this was so poorly managed for so many years really has just made a difficult situation even worse. And to your point, very much at the expense of what should have been the purpose of the OTB is to help localities have more money to defray other costs, other impacts as far as taxpayers' impact. And you did not see that happening at Western Regional OTB.
As you know, the former CEO is now a member of the board appointed to represent Niagara County. A lot of this mismanagement that you describe happened while he was leading the entire operation. Is that troubling to you?
Well, I would say it's interesting, but the way the structure is set up, each of the participating counties in the two cities have the responsibility and authority to appoint the board representation that they see fit. So let's hope that enlightenment spreads to all of the current board members, even those that may have had a role with the past. But I can't comment on the decisions that were made at the local level in terms of who they were appointing.
Now, in a statement to 7 News, Western Regional OTB President and CEO Byron Brown said that with reforms and new policies and procedures, quote, Batavia Downs experienced a record year financially in 2025 with the highest distributions in our 17-member municipalities in the history of the corporation. We will work with the state comptroller's office to develop a corrective action plan and execute their recommendations in order to operate even more efficiently. J. Dale Shoemaker with Investigative Post joins us live here tonight. Dale has covered OTB for years. It's great to have you here to get your insight on this. And I wonder, this again was the period before a lot of change happened at OTB. Did anything surprise you or you think especially stick out in terms of the findings?
I wish I could say yes, but frankly, no. Nothing really here was surprising. We knew that there was spiraling salaries. We reported on a lot of that. That was a big finding of this audit, that salaries increased out of pace with revenue. We also knew that there were various concerns about spending, and that was one of the other major findings of this audit, is that while revenues did in fact go up a little bit over this 4-year audit period, spending went up way, way more. We've reported previously in the past, just for example, on trips that former CEO Henry Watazik took to Las Vegas and Saratoga Springs, racking up $1,000 dinner bills. We've reported previously on the free meals and drinks that executives, including Chief Operating Officer Scott Kodrowski, enjoyed at the restaurants and bars at Batavia Downs. We've also reported on the lawyers and consultants hired by OTB for various purposes, including defending Mr. Kodrowski in a federal lawsuit, as well as consulting on whether board members should be allowed to be enrolled in the agency's health care plan. plan.
A very generous health care plan.
A very generous health care plan. That's another expense, is this very generous health care plan that they provide to both current employees, executives, and retired board members. Those specifics were not in here, but we did know that the bills were racking up under Henry Wojtaszek.
Yeah, and when your bills are going up and the amount that you're bringing in aren't in balance, you're sending less money to the municipalities. Now that has changed apparently a little bit in 2025, but I want to ask you about the sort of question looming over all of this, which is, do we really need Western regional off-track betting? Some of the OTBs in other parts of the states have dissolved over the years. Listen to what Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz said yesterday about this.
I really wonder, in today's day and age, do we need to have this anymore? The revenue that's generated is not that large in the grand scheme of things of our full budget. And I think we can see right now that the gaming industry has completely changed as a result of online gambling. People are not going to racetracks to bet on horses anymore.
Yeah, it's certainly a different environment than it used to be. Is there in any way, you think, the political will out there to do away with Western Regional OTB? Well,
political will and reality are often in conflict, as you know, in New York State here. But I did speak with one critic of OTB who made a very cogent argument, which is basically this. The OTBs were created back in the day to cut down on organized crime. You know, we can all imagine the mafias running the gambling rackets, specifically with horse tracks. So they created this structure to cut down on organized crime and then kick that revenue to the municipalities, as you noted. Organized crime these days does not care about horse racing. They have far more lucrative ventures that they are involved in these days. And frankly, the public doesn't really care about horse racing either. The comptroller in their report noted that the steady decline of the horse racing aspect of OTB's business. They make all of their money from the video lottery machines and the hotel. That's their bread and butter these days. So is it worth the amount of money that OTB is sending to the municipal governments to keep them around? At peak in recent years, OTB was sending collectively to 17 governments about $10 million. 17 governments, that's 15 counties, Buffalo and Rochester, all splitting a pie of $10 million. Is that really worth it, revenue-wise, to keep this enterprise around? Critics will say no. Mr. Poloncarz, maybe agrees with those critics to at least some extent there, but will the lawmakers ever do anything? Well,
yeah,
remains to be seen.
That would take an act, obviously, of the state legislature and the governor, so a lot of moving parts. Dale, thank you so much. Go to investigativepost.org and you can read Dale's reporting on this. Appreciate it.
Thanks.